Today I'm going to show you how to turn these into this. Hello and welcome to another episode of I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt Degen, and on this channel I teach you everything from the basics of cooking to more advanced stuff. So today I'm going to show you how to make homemade mashed potatoes in 5 simple steps. Now, here in America, Thanksgiving is around the corner and mashed potato is an absolute staple for the table. But mashed potatoes are great any day of the year, and after watching today's episode, you will know how to whip up a batch of homemade mashed potatoes in about half an hour. Now, I know many of us equate homemade mashed potatoes with this stuff that comes out of a box, and honestly, these really aren't that bad. But there is just nothing like mashed potatoes made from real potatoes. This recipe is so easy, it only requires 3 main ingredients. Of course, we are going to have potatoes. We're using about 6 russet potatoes. We will have some milk and butter. That's it. 3 ingredients plus some salt and pepper for seasoning. Step number 1 is peeling the potatoes. And if you have a child or friend who can safely use a peeler, this is a great way to get family and friends involved in the process of cooking. Pro tip, after you peel the potatoes, put them in water. This is going to help prevent oxidation. Oxidation occurs when air comes into contact with the surface of the potato, kind of turns them brown. Same thing happens with bananas and avocados. Step number 2 is to cut the potatoes. And remember how I showed you how to cut vegetables and fruits? I did a whole video on this. Make sure you're cutting with a flat surface. That way it's nice and stable. Then from here, we can just cut into chunks like this. The cuts don't have to be exact, but you do want similar sized pieces. Just little chunks like this, I'd say about 1 inch. I've also filled my pot with water, and I'm going to throw these chunks into the awaiting pot. For this recipe, I recommend using a 6-quart or larger pot. This is just an 8-quart stainless steel, and again, I've already filled it with some water so that the chunks don't oxidize while I'm cutting up. Okay, you are doing great. That was pretty much the hard part. Step number 3 is to turn the heat to about medium-high, and we are going to simmer these potatoes for about half an hour or until they are tender. Here's one of my biggest tips for cooking great homemade mashed potatoes. Heat the water and the potatoes together. Don't bring the water up to a simmer or a boil first and then dump in the potatoes. If you do that, what tends to happen is the outside cooks faster than the inside, and you get kind of mushy, not great textured mashed potatoes. Bring everything up to temperature at the same time and you'll have wonderful, creamy mashed potatoes. Okay, our potatoes are in the pot and we want just enough water to cover them. If you need to add more water to cover, then do so now. While these potatoes are cooking, they really don't need much babysitting. You can just kind of give them a stir once in a while and make sure that it's not like boiling over. One other thing we're going to do at the start of cooking is add some salt. This is just some kosher salt. And I'm just adding about maybe a teaspoon or 2 of salt. Just like with pasta, this is going to help bring flavor out of those potatoes. If any white foamy stuff appears on the surface of the water, that is totally normal. Just skim that off. This is just like extra starches and maybe some impurities that are coming off the potatoes. It's nothing terrible and it's totally normal. So just kind of skim it off if you want. The potatoes have been cooking for just under half an hour now, and it's time to check to see if they are tender. And the way you do that is just by sticking a fork in them and seeing if they fall apart and if they're nice and tender in your mouth. So I'm going to fish out one of our chunks here. And what you want is you just want a fork to really easily just go right through it. Yeah, see, this is nice and soft. And then finally we'll just give it a try and make sure it's nice and tender, fully cooked through. Nice, soft, creamy. That's exactly what we want. Our potatoes are done, so step 4 is draining the potatoes in a colander. So just be very careful because your pot's going to be hot. And we're just going to dump this into a waiting colander. And then put the empty pot back on the stove. While the potatoes drain, I am going to heat 1 cup of milk in the microwave. That's going to take about a minute. And I'm going to melt half a stick of butter in the microwave. That'll take maybe about 30 seconds or so, depending on your microwave. All that's left to do is step number 5. Put the potatoes back in the pot and mash. I am just using a simple manual masher here. I got this at the thrift store. It's a vintage masher, but any masher will work. I would stay away from like a food processor because sometimes that can tend to make them gummy. Just grab an old masher like this or a new one at the store and mash. So we'll dump our potatoes right back into the pot. And we will start to mash and slowly add in the milk. I would start with about half a cup first. If you want creamier mashed potatoes, add more milk. And if you want less creamy mashed potatoes, add less milk. And of course, we can't forget our melted butter. We'll just pour this right in. And we are just going to mash. This is really fun too. If you have kids, they can help out with this and feel like they're really being part of the meal. Just do this until you get to the nice consistency that you want. I like my potatoes pretty creamy, so I mash them pretty well. And I also like to add a little more milk to mine. Let's give these a taste to see if they need any extra salt. These look so good. Super creamy, super rich, needs just a little more salt. So I'm going to add some salt here. And I also like to add fresh ground pepper to mine. Now, if you don't want black flakes of pepper in your mashed potatoes, you can use white pepper and that'll just kind of blend in better. I'm going to plate these up and we'll give them a real taste test. I'm going to add a nice pat of butter to the top of mine. Of course, if you like gravy or a cheese, you can put that right on top. But I'm just going to do some butter. I also like to add some dried parsley flakes. This is just going to give it a nice little pop of color. Moment of truth. Let's see how we did. These potatoes are so hot that the butter is just melting right into them. Oh, All right, here we go, friends. You cannot believe how delicious and how easy these are to make. 3 ingredients and a masher. Unbelievable. These are so creamy. It's so buttery, just the right amount of salt and pepper. My friends, you have got to try these. So that is how to make homemade mashed potatoes in about 30 minutes with just 3 ingredients. Please try this recipe. Let me know what you think. Tell me about any additions that you like to add. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this helpful, please like, please subscribe if you haven't already. As always, thank you for watching I Want to Cook. If you have any questions about cooking in the kitchen or thoughts on something you want me to make in the future, put those in the comments below and maybe I'll get to them on a future episode. As always, thanks for watching I Want to Cook, and I'll see you next time.